Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thanks for being here. Welcome. This letter from Nichiren to Toki Jonin, to whom he communicated a lot. Toki Jonin was a leading retainer of Lord Chiba, I believe, and he was a very strong follower of Nichiren's throughout his teaching life. Toki, because he was a leading retainer, as I've explained in the past, he also was, because he was responsible for many samurai and staff and so forth, he was a natural for not only being a follower of Nichiren's, but teaching, spreading the teachings that Nichiren was offering on the Lotus Sutra. And because of this, Nichiren often wrote to him in a form, as I've described also in previous videos, that was like a teaching directive, a teaching outline, background material, so that Toki could use in his own promulgation of the teachings of the Lotus Sutra and Nichiren's doctrine. So here we have a Gosho titled, A Sage Perceives the Three Existences of Life. And so what we'll see here, the sage is a general term, but more specifically in this letter refers to Nichiren as one of these historical sages. And the reason he's a sage, there are many. One being the subject of this letter is the perception of past, present, and future, the three existences. Remember, life is a moment-to-moment. Seems like a linear, continuous chain to us, but it actually transfers one moment to the next, our entire karmic makeup, right? So we're more like, I've used the analogy of film or video before. We watch a video and we see this stream of images, but it's a stream because it's made up of discrete frames, one photograph after the next with minor changes. This is like life, these moment-to-moment existences. They look linear, but they're actually a progression, right? And so as a sage, as we practice, as we open our Buddha mind, as we begin to become better observers of life and the life processes, we begin to understand, or more lucidly, more clarity in seeing this process in everything. And as a sage, he's going to show his perception of the three existences of life. Understanding the past doesn't seem like much of a hat trick, but understanding how the past comes about, how through our present mind, and therefore applying what we know of this moment-to-moment causality, we can make pretty secure predictions about the way things are going. If you see a ball rolling down a street on an incline, whether it's bouncing or not, or what angles it's moving in, and its momentum, you can make a pretty good guess as to where it's going to end up. It's kind of like playing billiards, right? You can make a pretty good guess once the cue ball starts to roll, where it's headed and what it's going to encounter. So one of the references in this letter is going to be the Risho and Kokuran, right? His remonstration to the leadership of Japan about where it's leading the country with its erroneous philosophies garnered from its tight and close relationship with Nembutsu and Pure Land and these other erroneous or flawed interpretations of Buddhist teachings. So let's get into it. That's what it's a short gosho, so we may finish it in this one sitting. He begins. A sage is one who fully understands the three existences of life, past, present, and future. The three sovereigns, 5 emperors, and 3 sages referred to in Confucianism understood only the present. They knew neither the past nor the future. Brahmanists, however, were able to see 80,000 kalpas into the past and future, thus, in a small way, resembling sages. But they didn't have the enlightenment and understanding of the Buddha mind, but they were sages. Or, less so, Nichiren says, resembling sages. People of the 2 vehicles of the Hinayana teachings were aware of the causes and effects in the past and future. Hence, they were superior to the Brahmanists. The Hinayana bodhisattvas spent 3 asamkaya kalpas in the past in their practice, and the bodhisattvas of the connecting teaching spent as many kalpas as there are dust particles in the past in their practice. The bodhisattvas of the specific teachings knew myriad kotis of kalpas in the past in each of the stages of their practice. In a theoretical teaching of the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni Buddha spoke about a time major world system dust particle kalpas in the past. This teaching surpassed all the previous ones of his preaching life. Moreover, in the essential teaching of the sutra, the Buddha spoke about numberless major world system dust particle kalpas ago, and about all the kalpas that had ever passed, and he made proclamations concerning matters countless kalpas in the future. Now, what he's reviewing here is the depth of understanding of past, present, and future, in case you got lost in all those kalpas. From the above, it is clear that a thorough understanding of both the past and the future is intrinsic to the nature of a sage. Shakyamuni Buddha, the Lord of Teachings, accurately predicted the near future, saying that he would enter nirvana in 3 months' time. Can there be any doubt about his prediction for the distant future? That in the last 500-year period after his passing, the Lotus Sutra would spread abroad widely. With such perception, one can see the distant future by looking at what is close at hand. One can infer what will be from what exists in the present. This is the meaning of the passage from the Lotus Sutra that says, quote, this reality consists of the appearance that, nyoze so, nyoze in, nyoze in, nyoze ka, the 10 factors, and their consistency from beginning to end. So it's handy as you're doing Gongyo and you're reciting this part of the Hoben chapter to remind yourself as you're repeating this 3 times that this is the perception of the Buddha mind. To be able to understand with these 10 factors and how they arise and fall away and how they contribute to further instantiation, right? Cause, effect, cause, effect, cause, effect. How things seem to persist even though they're constantly in change. This is a difficult concept to grasp. But as much as you can see how some, as I say, momentum will carry something into the future, you can only estimate, because as things may change, again, the ball bouncing down the hill and rolling down the hill may encounter a pebble or an intervening, a child running out in the street and kicking it, or something that you can't necessarily account for in your estimation may change the direction, or what I was trying to, trajectory. I keep combining two words into new words, sorry, of that ball. So, same is true about looking into the future. The more clarity, the more understanding we have, though, the more we can conceptualize the possibilities of the future into pretty solid estimations. So it's not like, soothsaying or somehow predicting your exact future. It's about seeing the direction that your life momentum is carrying you in. And certainly as a nation, you're talking about a lot of variables, but they're all encapsulated in a major momentum. So as much as there may be outliers, there is a general sense of where things are moving, right? Unless there's radical change made, which is what Nichiren is suggesting with the Risho and Kokuran, is that this is where you're headed, but you can alter it by doing this, right? All right, so he continues. Who should be acknowledged as the votary of the Lotus Sutra in the last 500-year period? I do not yet trust my own wisdom, but because the rebellion and invasion that I predicted have occurred, I must trust it. I do not say this just to impress others. So he's not saying, "Hey, I'm the foremost sage today." He's saying that the predictions I've made from my chanting and my Myoho Renge-kyo and my efforts to promulgate the Lotus Sutra and have given me visions of clarity about where the nation as a whole is headed, just as much as disciples and so on. And I've reached out to the leaders of this nation to prevent further major invasions and famine and so forth by trying to correct their understanding of the world, their worldview, vis-a-vis Myoho Renge-kyo. This could have been looked upon, as it was by the government, as just some smart-ass monk, mouthing off. But since my predictions in that letter, that remonstration, have come about, even me, myself, Nichiren, am having to take these clarities, these visions that I'm getting far more seriously, because obviously I was right on the money. So what Nichiren is saying is, I'm not saying this as a boast. I'm saying this as a realization, and it's kind of a little overwhelming, but I have to, the evidence is there. So I have to have, and he says it himself, he says, I do not yet trust my own wisdom. So by wisdom, he's talking about this insights that he keeps getting, right? But he's having to have more confidence, less doubt about his own functioning in his day and time as the votary of the Lotus Sutra. So he goes on to say, my disciples know this. Those who practice and listen to my teachings or read them in letters, they have the confidence that I yet am not totally on board with. I have more doubts about myself as a humble monk than the people whom I teach. They see the wisdom more easily than I see it in myself. And that's true of human nature, isn't it? Since I follow in the footsteps of bodhisattvas never disparaging, those who despise and slander me will have their heads broken into 7 pieces, while those who believe in me will amass good fortune as high as Mount Calm and Bright. So again, this is English translation. He's saying me, but he's speaking of himself as a sage, as a votary of the Lotus Sutra, not as him, just Nichiren being right. So now because this is uncomfortable, he resorts to his normal teaching method of question and answer, right? Why is the question? Why is it that those who slander you have not yet had their heads broken into 7 pieces? Answer: since ancient times, of all those who slandered sages other than the Buddha, only 1 or 2 have suffered punishment by having their heads broken. The offense of defaming Nichiren is not by any means limited to only 1 or 2 persons. The entire populace of Japan has in fact slandered Nichiren and had their heads broken. What else do you think caused the great earthquake of the Shoka era and the huge comet of the Bunei era? I, Nichiren, am the foremost sage in all Jambudvipa. Nevertheless, from the ruler on down to the common people, all have despised and slandered me, attacked me with swords and staves, and even exiled me. That is why Brahma, Shakra, and the deities of the sun and moon and the 4 heavenly kings have incited a neighboring country to punish our land. This is clearly described in the Great Collection and Benevolent Kings Sutras, and the Nirvana Sutra and the Lotus Sutra. Even if 10,000 prayers were to be offered, if the people fail to heed me, it is certain that this country will experience what happened on Iki and Tsushima. So here he's talking about something we've touched on in the past. He's saying that, and this is something for you and I in our practice to also keep in mind, because it's easy to forget. We're very self-motivated individuals, aren't we, human beings? But I talked about this before in the concept of Itai Doshin. There's a video dedicated to that from a previous Go show. That though we individuals may throw ourselves into Buddhist practice and really fervently chase after our fusion, our relationship with Buddha, the Buddha mind, the Buddha wisdom, no matter how much we chant, sometimes we feel like, I'm chanting hours a day, every day of the week. I chant myself to sleep at night because I'm concerned or worried about this, that, or the other. And we worry or we have doubt that all that effort isn't having a payoff. We're not seeing the change. And it's unfortunate that we do that, because we fail to realize that while we're chanting, while we're using our mandala, we fail to give credit to the life condition, the incredible life condition that we're experiencing when we do that. And we walk away from the mandala and our own Gohanzen, our Buddha wisdom, and we look at the world around us, and we immediately forget that we were just communing with our Buddha mind. Human beings, that's what we do. We're so glued to our attachments, right? But maybe as a way to wake ourselves up out of that delusion, I think it can be helpful, not all the time, but I think for me it's been helpful when I sit down in front of my mandala and I chant to Gohanzen, that I see myself as a pebble with each daimoku, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, like a little pebble tossed into the surface of a lake. And understand that as much as we're self-driven to practice for ourselves, that every daimoku we chant reverberates throughout our environment. It reverberates through the people that we know, the people in our family, our siblings, our parents, our cousins, our pets, our home, our flora and fauna. We affect our entire world as we chant Myoho Renge Kyo. And so if you're changing, or even if you don't understand what karma or what momentum that you're influencing, it may be very profound. It may be deep within your life. Something deep enough in your life that it's actually shared throughout all existence, certainly all humanity. Well, the nature of moving that ship is far greater in effort than simply your little boat. So it may take some time, but the reward comes, maybe in increments, but it will come. And it is coming, and that's my point. A failure to realize how much you're affecting your momentum and the momentum of the world you are integral to. That's just human ignorance, right? So, this is why Nietzsche speaks this way, because he's aware that the nation feels toward him, even though the leaders of the nation may exile him, he understands that they are just the tip of an iceberg that is the entire populace of Japan, sending him to exile. Do you see? It works both ways. We are not separate, independent entities, though we romance that vision all the time. I, self, that's the ego, right? That's the delusion. The I is really all that we are a part of. We influence and are influenced. This should go without saying in the age of television and the internet and everything else. We are so, we use the words, we're so connected now, but we say it without understanding the profundity of that statement. All right, last paragraph. Told you this was a short go show. My disciples, he's speaking to us. You should believe what I say and watch what happens. These things do not occur because I myself am respect-worthy, but because the power of the Lotus Sutra is supreme. It's fundamental. If I praise myself, people will think that I'm being boastful. But I am humble myself. They will despise the sutra. They will despise the sutra. So, even though they vilify Nichiren, because of the relationship of cause and effect, they're actually rebuking the Lotus Sutra, not just me, a humble man, right? By rebuking me, because my life is so dedicated to the Lotus Sutra that what they're actually rebuking isn't me, the fisherman's son. It's the Lotus Sutra. They're using me as a vehicle for their hatred and doubt and so on and so forth. So that's quite a wise thing to say. The taller the pine, the longer the wisteria vine hanging from it. The deeper the source, the longer the stream. How fortunate, how joyful, in this impure land, I alone enjoy happiness and delight. So this is a reference again to his commitment to Myoho Renge Kyo, and that we too can experience that joy and delight, even in the midst of all this discord. Because this discord is a momentary thing, and it has profound effects, absolutely, he's not denying that. But he's saying that even in this situation, if you dedicate yourself to Myoho Renge Kyo, your own Buddha wisdom, then you can see clearly and be what? Unattached, unaffected, uninfluenced by this great negativity. Great because of its size and influence, but not great because of its value, right? All right, the next one is on omens, so that should be interesting. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. I occasionally get just random support from all over the world. Yelena, I'm talking to you and others who've recently just sent me small dollar donations, even 20, 50, $100 donations. Those aren't small. And they're critical. They're critical for me to continue being able to create these videos, as well as to post them and share them with you. And now available as podcasts. I transcribe all of these videos to MP3 files and put them on in the podcast world. So the Buddhahood podcast, all three words, wherever you get your podcasts. So that way you can download these and just that way you don't have to make as much time to watch a video. You can listen to these podcasts on your own time, on your own device, and as you're working out, driving, whatever. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. So much appreciate your participation, and you buoy my practice. So how much can I thank you for that? I'm extremely grateful. You take care of your health, strengthen your practice. Don't forget to go to my website, threefoldlotus.com. There's a lot of white papers there. In other words, study material. Use it as a resource. Probably is in need of updating. I don't get there as often as I should. So much to do, right? Okay. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. See you next time.